just get to it. A topic sometimes I read through this last night with Jailene and I was barely able to get through it. I thought that would set me for being able to do it. Now I'm whatever. A topic people sometimes want to know about me is my relationship with Nyxyia, a former member of the team who through a majority of her tumultuous tenure was my lover, but was eventually banned from the group for unacceptable behavior for 1 year, and during the early portion of this period she killed herself with great rancor towards the Podlair team and me most of all. A question that people are keen on is who is to blame, in an existential sense to some degree, but particularly interested in who I personally blame for this, or who others who are in the know blame for this. This is an extremely raw subject for me, so pondering on it with detached clarity is challenging, but I will do what I can. First, I blame the world for being so unaware of the true situation of humans and thus letting terrible burdens be placed on people that didn't need to be that way. Burdens that were unbearable. Second, I blame whatever people she knew growing up, because they did things to her that she felt were unbearable, that ruined her, broke her, made her damaged, dirty goods. Here there needs to be a few relevant tangents mentioned. Nyxyia lied a lot. This was a theme throughout knowing her, but it seemed very forgivable to me because she did it to avoid any kind of lack of affection. She would do little things. She would tell entire fabrications. She would flip-flop wildly regarding her positions on various things. She also lied to get attention and positive reinforcement, even after being told many times this wasn't necessary for her to be appreciated. She also lied to create drama as if to ward off a fatal gray mood that would slip in if the world didn't distract sufficiently and too much inner thought time would remind of the awful notion that she was irreversibly hurt inside. I mention it here because I was never able to get a clear idea of what had happened to her, as her story would change frequently and she would get extremely cagey with any attempts to put a consistent, actionable story together. This brings up another relevant point. Nyxyia was on a determined suicide march. She made me aware of this after a bit of us getting closer. She made it sound playful in the beginning, as if it was a wild, desperate thought of her younger years, remembered with a shudder and laugh of relief. As we continued our relationship, she made it more clear that this decision is not something she had shaken, and it's just kind of killing time until it's time to go. Over time, this turned into the responsibility of myself and Podlair to stop her, and eventually, in her eyes and the eyes of others, my failure to stop her. This takes us back to who is to blame. So thirdly, Nyxyia herself must hold some responsibility for not resisting these dark forces on her. For nobody can save who has given up on the prospect of saving themselves. Fourth, I blame myself for getting into an intimate relationship with her at all in the first place. I saw us as two wounded souls that could perhaps heal each other, or at least give more lenience to each other's hypersensitive ways than the rest of the world does. I should have needed her presence less, been able to stand on my own better, leaned on her less. I should have realized my limitations to help this person sooner and not been blinded by my neediness, my weaknesses, my insecurities. I should have realized a major intervention was needed sooner and worked to make it happen as best possible. I should have not abandoned her for the community for a year. It was far too long. This was done after a discussion with the team over how to proceed, but the final decision was mine, and thus so is the blame for it. Fifth, I blame Lyra, as he was an unstable presence that was on his own death spiral, and their ugly fallout is what precipitated the extremely erratic behavior and lashing out in verbal tirades, often to the point of literal incoherence. There had been this in the past, but this was the worst of it, and it crossed a tipping point for herself and for those around her. There was a situation where they both couldn't stay in the group at the same time, and Lyra appeared to be the one attempting to be reasonable, although that was just a charismatic facade over his own tortured trajectory. So he was banned, which was my decision. That was my decision. As were the moves to keep her from contacting us during this time. But the entire final tip over the edge came from the fallout between her and Lyra, which didn't need to happen. And if he had been more forthright about his own precarious grasp of himself, or less purposefully hurtful in their fallout, then she would have lived to see more days. Although that is no guarantee that her suicide march could have been stopped. Nyxyia could be so shiny. Glimpses of what she could be if her past hurts could somehow be worked through. We could talk for hours. We had so many complementary rhythms. We had so many laughs together. She'd forgotten how to laugh until she met me. That's what she said many times. I made her laugh for a while, in bursts here and there. This is physically painful. But her melancholy could only be distracted for so long. She would vacillate between feeling overwhelmed by the rigors of the work I am dedicated to, and other times feeling left out. This is more blame for me to bear, as I hoped doing good work would walk her and I out of past traumas, and this was a dream tainted by my neediness for it to be true. She initially welcomed the idea of Nyxyia and its explanation for some of her pain. Over time, though, she was very competitive with the samples we studied, to where it was hard to look or talk about them without it being a trigger for her own state of being. When these things were done without her, often to avoid her being upset by them, she was upset she was left out. She quit her job, partly because she was tired of working there, partly because it made me so excited about being able to have her around me that much more. This was an impulsive decision that added money troubles to the already volatile situation. I should have seen this coming. But she seemed so gleeful, and I was so desperate for more of her in my life. Being around each other more made the problems there already even worse. She and I shared being very sensitive, and the relief this used to give each other had run out, and only the ability to push each other's buttons remained. I was unable to help her. She got worse and worse. She pushed every button she could think of to push on me, at one point putting me into a state where I think I had a heart attack. My heart seized up and I passed out. She ran away, leaving me, but luckily Jarlene was there to help. We were not healthy for one another. Therapy was suggested. She was resistant. Her family was made aware of the situation. There was an accident which led to a brief forced psychiatric stay, but nothing worked. She killed herself. This woman that I love, they gave me moments of such joy and pain and shame. Nyxyia will haunt me all my days. Her ghost reminds me that I must honor her by not letting her life be in vain, that I use the pain, shame, and longing for lost joy to give the world a better way to understand itself, so that future generations of all humans, especially, her fellow Nyxyia have a better life. I do what I do for all of humanity, but there are certain spirits that motivate me more. That's the way it is. She would wish for this often when we would talk, and I would say that she was helping right now, being herself, and that she would have that to look forward to herself. The other Nyxyia would proudly name their children variations on the name Nyxyia, because her story of walking through her pain into higher ground will inspire people. She would just give me this sad, otherworldly look and hug me, kiss me, give me a smile that broke my heart every time I saw it. A smile of a most precious creature. I was blessed to be able to briefly hold like a too delicate flower, and cursed to be able to have no power in my lifetime to save her. Nyxyia is dead by... Nyxyia is dead, but part of her spirit remains with me, and I will carry it forward and upward with me to wherever my higher spirits lead us to go. She will heal this spirit. If not in my lifetime, then in the times to come. Already the spirit has seen the Nyxyia as I was unable to give anyone, much less my beloved Nyxyia, in her living days. The future humans will know of her loss and how it has spurred me on. There have been times since her passing where I did not know how to carry on, but I made her a promise to find a way forward. I made it to her, and I've made it to this spirit guide she has created in me. I failed enough. This spirit, I'll find a way forward. I can do that. Do not let my pain be in vain, Nyxyia said to me many times in her finest moments. Pleaded with me, made me promise. If the pain can mean something, then maybe it isn't so bad, she said to me. Maybe it would be bearable then, she said to me. I promised her I would find that meaning, discover its essence for her. I failed to do this, despite my best efforts, and because of my many failings. I'm going to have to live with that. I will not fail her legacy, that her story will be a call to avert needless tragedy by understanding ourselves better and treating each other better, knowing that the spirit of Nyxyia is lifted each time we do so. Her ghost will haunt me the rest of my days for this purpose, and I am grateful for the bittersweet company.